Next up is to put brake fluid into the system. We're going to use Galfer Super.4. It's really important that whenever you do a job, you start with a fresh bottle because it's hygroscopic, it absorbs moisture from the air, and that is really not good for your brake system whatsoever. So if you're going to do the job, start with a brand new bottle every time. Recommended shelf life is about a month, but that's about it. So we prefer just to start fresh every time. Today we're going to show you how to use Motion Pro's Phoenix bleeding tool. This tool is great because what it does is the converse to normal. It will introduce fluid into the brake caliper, up through the lines and into the master cylinder reservoir. Traditionally we're used to trying to push air down out of the caliper. Well, this takes it the way it wants to go, puts it right up in the master cylinder where you can see it all bubble up. Our first step is to take the portion of the tool where the tube goes into our brake fluid bottle. Next step is to draw the fluid all the way through the line, and we'll see it come into the upper chamber here. Now we need to take the protective rubber cap off the bleed nipple, loosen the nipple, attach our fitting on the end of the tool to the bleed nipple. Now we quite simply use the pump to send the fluid through the caliper, up through the lines, and wait for it to appear up here in the reservoir. We can already hear air popping out of the top of the reservoir. Brake systems don't take very much fluid at all, so you can see 4 or 5 pumps and we already have fluid in the reservoir. Now we don't need to put a ton into the reservoir because we still have to bleed the other side. So once you see it appear, go ahead and stop at that point, tighten the bleed nipple, move to the other side, repeat the process. Once the master cylinder reservoir is half full, you can stop at that point. Go ahead, tighten everything up on the bleed nipples and make sure that you drain the fluid back into the brake fluid bottle. Now, anytime you're doing a job like this, there's going to be brake fluid somewhere. So clean it up. Always use a contact cleaner, such as brake or parts clean, because you want everything to evaporate. A contact cleaner, or literally contact cleaner, will leave a residue behind and you don't want that. So brake clean or parts clean, something like that. Get rid of all of the brake fluid and be very thorough with your cleaning. Do not skimp on it. Now that we've got fluid introduced to the system from the bottom up using Motion Pro's Phoenix bleeder tool, we're now going to go ahead and bleed the system the traditional way. And that will be just pumping the lever and releasing our bleed nipple to get any remaining air that is in the caliper out of the system. If we find that we don't have all of it out, then we will, if necessary, go up to the banjo bolt and bleed there too. But in general, just use your bleed screws and that should get rid of most of the air in the system. Now, traditional brake bleeding is quite simple. You pump the brake lever until you have pressure, and then once you've got pressure, you very gently relieve the bleed screw to allow some fluid out. You don't want it to pour out, but you want to pump the lever, gain pressure, undo the bleed screw ever so slightly, and let the fluid come out. You'll see we also have a rubber line that goes back into the brake fluid bottle because this is a brand new system. So if we want to be really thorough and spend 20 minutes doing this to get it absolutely perfect, we can recycle the brake fluid to do that. As you can see from the footage, we're not getting any pressure on the lever here at all. So we're going to go ahead and start at the top and bleed the master cylinder. We have 2 options. We have the bleed nipple here and we also have the banjo joint underneath. So we'll use the primary. We'll try and bleed that down and get the air out through the bleed hole here. Then if we're getting good pressure, then we can go back to the lower lines and bleed the calipers after that. Oh yeah, lots of air. We got most of the air out of the cylinder, so now we're getting bar pressure. What does that mean? Well, when you pump it up and you go to release pressure, the bar will fold in easily. So now you know that you're reaching a stopping point. That's good. So we'll go ahead, go to the bottom of the bike, to both calipers, bleed the lines out. Now, it's up to you, but I will spend, like I said, at least 20 minutes doing this because I want to know my front brakes are perfect. So be patient. It may take a little longer than you think. Now we've got great bar pressure. In reality, it probably took me about 20 minutes to get it to have got excellent bar pressure. You always need to have an air gap in your reservoir. I recommend filling it 2/3 full. You never want to completely fill the reservoir. That could lead to incredible, miserable, and quite nasty brake problems. So always make sure you've got an air gap. This is one of the messiest jobs you can do. So be as thorough as possible in cleanup and getting brake fluid off everything. As always, we thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Performance Upgrades.